We are not so different.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your morning with We Are Not So Different. This morning's guest, we have Miss Tamika Harden. Say hi, Miss Tamika.
Hello, good morning, good morning.
As you may or may not know, my beautiful people, this month is National Foster Care / Adoption Month. So I've chosen to dedicate this entire month to some amazing people who've had the opportunity to both give up children or gift children for adoption and also foster and or adopt. So before we get started, y'all know the drill. Go ahead, find your favorite spot on the couch. Get your favorite drink, whether it's Kool-Aid or Cavassier, and just relax and get ready to join this conversation. So, Miss Tamika, before we jump in, I start my show off the same way every single time. Each guest gets the same two questions, just so my listeners can get a little bit of background and see where their heart is. So, first question: if you had a platform and an undivided attention of an audience of your choosing, who would said audience be and what would you tell
Wow, that's a strong question.
them? Well,
Okay, if I had an audience of my choice, it would be those who are successful, elite, have been through some life experiences in which now they have the tools to be able to give back and to be able to help others start their dreams and to be able to add to the skills that many of us may lack. So, those who are more experienced, those who have the resources, right, they can invest and add knowledge and education to those who are entrepreneurs, who are seeking change, who want to make changes in their life and or help others, but may lack the knowledge or the resources. So I would speak to an audience who has the tools and the resources and could provide help to those who don't.
okay. And so what would you tell them? Like, because you said you want to speak to the audience that has those things. Are these people willing to do so? That's a whole nother different story.
Well, after they listen to me, they would be willing to do so.
That
And
part, sis.
yeah,
Okay.
if, if you have the passion and the why should you help? Why should you share your resources? Why should you share your information? If you can prove to them why they should, because of your passion, your desire for change, and wanting to pay it forward and help those that are less fortunate or who lack the knowledge and education, if you can prove to them why, most people will extend a helping hand, and many are already doing so, and it may not be public knowledge.
Right.
But if you have a strong enough why, I can get it done. That's
Okay.
for sure. I'm confident.
Yes, I like that. That's what's up. So, question number two. If you had a chance to speak to a younger version of yourself, let's say 4 or 5 year old Tamika, what do you think that little Tamika would need to hear?
You are amazingly different. You are designed to be great.
Mm.
You may not know who you are or where you're going, but those steps are already ordained and ordered for you. I just need you to have faith and belief and passion, and everything else is done. Don't be afraid of who you are and who you are going to become because, honey, that woman is fierce. Okay.
Yes.
So
Ooh.
that's what I would have told the younger Tamika, who was scared, who lacked confidence, who had no clue who she was. She just knew that she dreamt differently and she had different desires and aspirations. But for a little girl in the urban ghetto, that's kind of weird. And she didn't know, but here she is. So that's what I would have told her.
Wow. That'll preach. That's what they say right in the church. That'll preach. But I do feel like I need to pass you an offering plate because that was a lot.
With the
But
tambourine.
yes. I love it. I love it. I love hearing what people would tell like their little selves because I think not only is it a chance for you to like pour into a younger version of yourself, but it's a chance for you to pour into yourself as well, like your older current version of yourself because you're like, you know what? I am a bad, you know what, and I
Yeah,
am, I am fierce. I am this. So it's like it's a self booster, and at the same time, you get to encourage and edify and pour into other people who may be listening. It's a win all the way around.
yes, yes, yes.
Yes. So foster care, adoption. Oh my gosh. So when I first read like your story or piece of it, because I'd be stalking, not stalking in a bad way, but like checking out people's stuff. And I was like, this lady is cut from a different cloth. So first of all, let me give I'll say my watchers, the listeners y'all can't see, but Miss Tamika, she is decked out like she ready to go. Like you remember, I don't know how old you are, and maybe I might be telling my age. You remember Xena Princess Warrior?
Yes,
That's
yes,
what she looked like. She's ready for battle. Do you hear what I'm saying? Because I know that you have a whole like business on the side of your professional bodybuilder and professional trainer and all that good stuff. But we're going to get to that stuff in a minute. I just had to take a second to
thank you.
acknowledge that you look like you ready to go, girlfriend. Yes. But I wanted to talk about the part where you're we're are dealing currently are foster care and adoption. First of all, I would like to say that foster care is a calling. Um, and I don't say that with the least bit of pretense, because it's difficult, in my opinion. This is me. So please, I pray that I'm not offending anyone or speaking out of turn or even saying something that may be ignorant from my perspective. Um, to take this human into your home and your heart, right? And pour into this human your love, your dedication, because that's what they need, right? They wouldn't be in foster care if they were not in some way, shape, or form experiencing lack in whether it be resources, love, attention. So you're pouring your time, your heart, everything into this little human and they're sucking it up because that's what they have been deficit in, correct? And you're doing all this knowing full well that you may or may not get it in return, and you may have to release said human heart back over to not the authorities, but like the people who maybe the birth mother or birth father, or maybe back into foster care. So I know I was talking a lot, but I was just like, that's a lot. There's so much unknown. There's so much, in my opinion, un. It's a calling.
Yes, yes.
So, if you can, give us your perspective as it pertains to being on the foster care side of things. Like I said, knowing that you may not get to keep this little bundle of joy or this big bundle of joy, depending on the size and the age that you've been pouring and pouring and pouring into.
First, I just want to say this is my first interview out of several where I get to talk about this part of my life.
Oh, really?
This part of my life is one of the most important. It has been one of the hardest challenges that I ever faced, but is one that I am most grateful for. So let's go way back, right?
Okay.
Years uh, prior, I was at a family picnic with a close cousin of mine. And this is after I had become a foster parent and had had my first placement of children. And my cousin said to me, Tamika, do you remember when we were 11 playing with our dolls? You said that when you grow up, you were going to be a foster parent. And she
Wow.
said, I thought you were nuts because we were not even old enough to understand what that was, what that meant, what have you. I became a foster parent fast forward at the age approximately of 26. The reason why I had wanted to be a foster parent from a young age, because I was introduced to foster care at a young age. My neighbor who lived upstairs from me was a foster parent to two children that she later adopted. She was a phenomenal foster parent to these two children. She dressed them nicely. She took good care of them. She accepted them as members of her family.
Yeah.
Then I had another experience. I used to ride my bike to neighboring friends to their house, and there was a house on a corner that housed maybe 6 boys. It was a foster home, but it was ran more like a group home.
Okay.
And they never had enough bikes. They never had haircuts. They always looked disheveled and a mess. So at a young age, I knew two sides of foster care. And I knew that with the stipend, with the funds that you received for their care, that you could make it work and you can do a good job.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I also worked in an area where there was ACS and other foster care agencies in the neighborhood, and they were my clients. I ran the health club. They came on their lunch breaks, and I knew them and I knew of it. So when I had the time, I began to take the training classes. At that time, I was running a full-fledged operating fitness facility. I had no time. I started the classes. I said, whoa, this looks like too much. Let's put a pause on this.
Okay.
And then years later, my life changed to where I had the time. I had purchased a home where it was just me, my dog, and my husband with no family, miles away from my family. So I said, you know what? Now I actually have the space and the time. Let me try it again.
Yeah.
My first placement, after like a year of going through training and qualifications, my first placement was a 1.5-year-old boy. And I was told that the placement would be temporary. He was being taken from his previous foster family because they were about to conceive their own child, and they were afraid that his violent behaviors would be a threat to their new bundle of joy. So that temporary placement turned into a permanent placement. When my son came to me, he couldn't really speak. He was aggressive because he couldn't articulate what he was feeling at a young age. He was turned down from early intervention services from the previous family. Oh, but they didn't turn me down. I
Okay.
went in that meeting with my notes from the top to the bottom. I was able to advocate for him and get the services that he needed. This was still a long journey. We were able to change behaviors and establish a routine. And then shortly after, he was preparing to go home back with his birth mother.
Okay.
This trial discharge happened. Right around the time it began to happen, I got a call from the agency asking, would I take his 9-year-old brother and his 17-year-old uncle? I said, oh no, how can I do this? My mother said, take them, I'll help you.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
went
Come on,
from,
mama.
yes, all she did was help by cooking them good food. That was it. Grandma did the best she could.
Yeah.
But I went from one child with special needs that needed a lot of attention to taking on two of his family members. So I went from 1 to 3.
How does
And
hubby feel about this whole time that you're like, how does he feel?
so which one?
Hubby.
Oh, okay. He's very supportive. We are amicably separated at this time, but the boys are with him this weekend. They'll
Okay.
be back tonight. He is an amazing person, and he has been there. Although we're separated, every other weekend he still comes and pick up the boys,
Love it.
take them out, spend time with him. They're with him now. He was supportive. My mother was supportive, and that was all that I needed. And my degree is in psychology and a minor of social work. So I just happened to have the skills needed to advocate for the needs of my children. Each of them had special needs. They came from educational neglect, drug addiction, and mental illness. But let me tell you, it was an uphill battle from uh, them stealing from me, hoarding food, things like that. But I continue to love. I continue to love to the point where my 17-year-old son, who's now 26, I made sure that he left foster care in a rent-free apartment. He has an on-call social worker from 9 to 5 that makes sure he has everything that he needed. I made sure that he was set up right when he left because he needed those services. My son, who is 17 now, he was 9 at the time. He was violent. He was tearing up the classrooms, attacking the teachers. Now you ask a teacher about him, he's a pleasant a student to have. He's kind. He's this. From a change of environment, from love, from nurturing, from consistency, my children are like night and day. And it wasn't easy at all. I wasn't a perfect parent, but no one is.
Right.
I didn't have a rule book, but one thing I knew that I could do, I knew that I could love. I knew that I could provide a safe environment. I knew that I could be an advocate to fight for every service that they needed.
Yeah.
And now I stand here, I sit here before you. My son is 11. My other son is 17. Their uncle is 26 and he has moved on. And I'm still standing despite all the tears and the craziness that came with it. But it has been a success. I am so grateful. I will not cry. I will not cry. I will not.
This is a safe place. This is a safe place.
My boys changed my life. They made me unselfish. Oh my God. It was the first selfless thing I had ever done in my life. And I thought I was a selfish person before that. I never had to sacrifice who I was for anyone or anything besides success. It was the first experience that I had where I had to give myself unconditionally. And when it came to the point of time for reunification, where my son was going back with his birth mom, I packed his bags, I cried, but I knew my role was to be support for a reunification.
Okay.
And then once it took place, and she was just falling apart one step after the next,
The birth mom.
the birth mom. She tried and she had every bone in her body to want to try.
Yeah.
But see, her brother was taken from the grandmother. So now you're talking generations of mental illness, of neglect, of poverty. So you don't know how to parent when you didn't learn how to parent from your mother because her child was taken from her. So she didn't know what to do. And because of her mental illness, it was a hard task for her. So then I had to do something that wasn't an easy decision. I had to step in and I had to fight for on behalf of the children. At first, I was okay with the reunification, but once it was deemed unsafe,
Mm.
I had to step in a different way because now I have to protect them. And we gambled once when he went back home for a trial discharge. And when he came back stealing. He was about 3, 4. He was stealing in stores as if someone taught him how to do so. He was overly aggressive all over again. It was like everything that we worked on, there was regression. So
Mhm.
when you saw all of that happening, and then the reports and things like that, at that time, I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision to fight for them to stay with me. And I had to then, after we won, in terms of adoption, I had to make the choice on how do I keep her in their life. And she's there, she gets to talk to them and things like that.
Oh, that's good.
But I had to limit the interaction because my 17-year-old mentally is fine and can handle that. But at the time, my little one, I knew he could not.
Okay.
And I said to myself, when he's 17, 18, whatever, and he comes to me and say, Mommy, why did you do that? I have to be willing to face whatever comes out of that conversation.
Yeah.
But I know that I made that decision for his well-being because I couldn't take the chance of regression. I couldn't take the chance of when she gets on the train to go back to the city for him not to understand why he cannot go.
Yeah.
So it was a hard choice to make, but he doesn't really ask of her. He knows that she's there. He talks, he gets to talk to her. He is very content with his new life. And my oldest son, who's 17, he made the choice of adoption. At the time he was 14. So when you're 14 in the state of New York in court, they ask you what you want. And he
Really?
already knew what he wanted. He wanted to be adopted.
Oh.
So here I am with two boys, and now I am working on employing them under Body by Tamika. So one will do bookkeeping, one will do packaging. My oldest son wants to be an entrepreneur. He's on the spectrum, for autism, but he's very talented. He's very smart, and he has his own unique capabilities. So it's just been about nurturing him and both of them, and just playing on their strengths and utilizing their strengths and never paying attention to their weaknesses because those things don't matter. Not to me. And I never want it to matter to them. And I got their back forever.
Yeah.
And that's my life in a nutshell without the tears.
Tears are not only welcomed, like here, they're like appreciated. I just want to say thank you for your vulnerability, for your transparency. I had no idea that this was the first time that you were like publicly speaking
The
about
first
this.
time I've ever talked about this publicly, ever. And it was so funny because sometimes before an interview, in my mind, I prep because I usually don't have enough time to actually write things out and prep. But this conversation didn't need a prep. It didn't need one at all. And I thank you for the opportunity to just talk about this because a lot of people who know me, they don't even know that I have children. And it's just because publicly on my page it's a lot of my fitness stuff and professional things, and you only know if you see photos or if you know me personally. But a lot of people don't know, and a lot of what I think why people don't know, and they're surprised when I say, because to most people I look younger than I am. So they're like, where do you get these kids from? And
Huh?
that's one thing. And then how busy I am in my career and in my life, they're probably wondering, where does children fit in?
Right, right.
But I had a live-in nanny for 3 years because in order to start Body by Tamika, I needed help raising my children. And I just put the money where it was important. If I needed someone to make sure they got to football and to make sure that they ate well and things like that, I paid for a live-in nanny for 3 years, and that expense was well worth it for me to build my business and to make sure that my boys had the care that they needed, to the point where when she left, they didn't know what to do. A laundry where? Yeah,
What?
yeah. Okay. I don't know what life you were afforded for the last 3 years, but hello, you do need to do the laundry, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I had to do to make it work. And that's probably why a lot of people, they're like, where do you fit children in? I had to, make the sacrifices that I had to make and put the money where I had to put it so that we both would be good. And during COVID, was the first year in a long time that I was able to be home. So
Mm.
from that experience, and it came a lot of hardship for all of us in several ways, but I was able to be there with my boys and see how much they've grown. And now my 11-year-old, he's like, he has new responsibilities. He can put himself on the bus. He's earned a cell phone that's coming because now you can do stuff to where I need to call you and check on you. And I was able to just see how much they've grown, how mature they are, and the young men that they have grown to become. And yeah, so
That's and that's I'm glad that you said that because COVID has been a blessing and a curse for some people. And if I'm not mistaken, you're a COVID survivor, correct? So we'll talk
yes,
about that in a second. But for some people, it's been a blessing and a curse. I'm not minimalizing the impact that COVID has had on our nation, on our entire world, right? But at the same time, it caused people to slow down,
yeah,
and we had the chance and the opportunity to reevaluate our priorities. And I love that you said, just like you said, you were able to spend like a whole bunch of time with your babies and see how
yes,
they've grown and see the impacts of your nurturing and your pouring and your loving and your care and your prioritization of placing money where it is needed for their best well-being. I bet you that was such a treat to
yes.
watch that and to be able to just,
And I want to share with you what my 17-year-old, this was one of the best Mother's Days that I ever had. A client of mine threw a beautiful brunch, mimosas and
okay.
Mother's Day something.
Mhm.
And my son, she called each every mom that was there, she called one of their children to get what to include in our gift box. And I want to, if I can find it fast enough, I got a million things in here. I want to share it. Oh, yeah, here it goes. So he said, I love you because you're always there for me. When I need you the most, you support my goals and you fight for a better future for me. You made me a better person than my old self. You worry about my mental and physical well being. You're someone I can turn to when I'm down, and you inspire me to work harder. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. Kev. So when I read that, I was like, he's watching. And, if I haven't taught them anything, I've taught them hard work, consistency, love, fairness, and entrepreneurship for sure. So just to read that, it was like, without all the tools, and there was times you made mistakes, you still have done a great job. And
Yes. You better
huge.
pat yourself on the back, mama. Go ahead. Round of
Yes.
applause, Miss Tamika. They get it. I love it. I love it. So, okay, let's shift. Because you said, you're teaching them about entrepreneurship. I love the fact that it just sounds so well-rounded. Like they have this whole new world of opportunity due to, yeah, it was some unfortunate circumstance at the beginning, but look at where they are now. And now you have the opportunity to sow the seed of the potential of generational wealth. If
Yes.
I was in a position that you said your baby's 11, right?
Yes.
At 11-year old and someone teaching me about entrepreneurial things and business, like your 11-year-old, even your 17-year-old, shoot, like they're going to have such a leg up
Yes.
on the competition, we'll say, on their peers, I should say more appropriately.
Oh, but I know exactly what you mean. And these are the things that weren't taught to me. So
Exactly.
to be in the position to teach them, I just ordered the Rich Dad, Poor Dad board game to play with them. I want to teach them financial literacy.
Oh,
I've been reading books on how to maximize my tax write-offs, and employing my children is one
mhm,
great way. And it will be tasks in which they can manage at their, appropriate age.
sure.
Uh, but it will teach them how to balance their finances, how to be responsible, all these great skills that when I started my business, I didn't have anyone to teach me these things. It was whatever I learned from managing other health clubs, whatever I was afforded from my college degrees, and whoever blessed me with some tips. But other than that, I didn't have any of that. So to be able to give them that, I want to do so much more. Like we talked about, what do you say to those people that you want to talk to? Is I want to continue to build, and I want to work more with like-minded people who want to give back and who want to do more, especially in our community. So that's one of my biggest goals. I've taught fitness to at-risk teenage girls. I've taught fitness workouts in group homes and things like that. And I was always mostly paid for those things, but I would like to do it in a not for a non-for-profit organization. I would like to maybe create one of my, not maybe, I would like to create one of my own. And
Okay.
yes, yes, let's speak over our lives and
Yes.
manifest the things that we want in the right way. So there's so much more that I want to do because fitness, I could use this platform to help empower people and boost confidence, help people change. Fitness is just the platform, but there's so much that can come out of it in terms of just self-love and self-care and positive self-talk and motivation. And these are some of the things that I was blessed with along my fitness journey. And that's one of the reasons why I use my platform to share that, because it can be a life-changing experience for people. And I'm looking forward to doing more in that area.
Yes. Okay. Remind me, we're gonna talk after the show because I have a particular non-for-profit in mind. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Um,
There
so
we go.
body by
Resources again, those resources.
exactly.
And we have to share them. And that is so important.
It is. It is. Um, so body by Tamika.
Yeah.
When did you start? What was like your motivation? Like, how did it all come into fruition?
I grew up overweight and I hated what it did to my self esteem. I wasn't a confident young woman as I should have been. And I joined a health club when I was 16. I
Okay.
lost 40 pounds. I fell in love with fitness and what it did for my self esteem and me personally. And then when I turned 19, that same health club hired me to run the entire facility.
Wow.
They saw my passion for change, my desire to help people. Although I was young and may not have had all the skills, I had enough to prove to them that they should hire me. And at that time, I was in charge of helping hundreds of women start their journeys and change their lifestyles and fall in love with fitness. And it was very impactful because I did this in an urban community in South Jamaica, Queens.
Okay.
So when they say Black women don't work out, we were working out. And this was in the early 2000s. And being able um, to help people in that capacity really influenced me and encouraged me to go forward. It took some time for me to start my own business out of fear and lack of resources, mostly fear. It took some time, but about 4 years ago, I took the plunge, I took the leap of faith, and I started Body by Tamika. And like that scary time in foster care, it is one of the best things that I could have ever done for myself.
Good.
Yes.
Wow. And here you are looking like I said, like the fierce Amazon Xena Princess Warrior.
And I
Looking so fierce.
to keep it together. So I
Yes.
gotta give myself some praise. You know, when you are constantly working and you have so many dreams, sometimes you don't stop enough to take out your pom poms and just cheer yourself on and praise yourself and say, job well done.
Yes.
So today, sitting here, I can stop and say, job well done.
Good. Yes, love. And it's so true. I had a family member remind me about that recently because, like, when you're on the grind and your nose down and you're making headway, that's all you think. But then if you're not careful to take those stops, to take, stop and see where you are, you will miss. You'll miss. And then I was even at a point where not only was I missing, I was like, I'm not doing enough. Like, I need to grind more. But yeah, you're right. You have to stop and be like, you know what?
Yep. Just like
Because
that. Just like that. Just like that. And I just thank you. I thank you for connecting with my PR agent and wanting to cover this story. And to me, out of over 50 interviews that I've been blessed with in the year of 2021, this has been the best. And it really has been. It has. Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm
Everybody
so
has it.
glad.
Oh
Thank
my
you for
God.
trusting. We are
Yes.
not so different with it because it's like this is everything. I love meeting new people. I love talking, especially about like when they have accomplished. And foster care and adoption has a soft spot in my heart because at the age of 18, I gifted my son to a couple. So I was able to give him up for adoption. And I think about like, will he find me and what's he doing? So I love to hear the hearts and the mind frames of other people who have been on both sides of the process, because it's like it is a sensitive thing and it is a deep and very personal thing. That's why when I say thank you for your transparency, like I'm not blowing smoke up your behind. I'm like I'm grateful that you would trust me with this type of
That
information.
makes you a very special person also, because you weren't selfish and your act and what you did, and that takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage. So I commend you also, and I encourage you to keep going with your platform and what you're doing, because you have a story too,
Yes,
one
ma'am.
that could take an whole hour to talk about this.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Seriously. So I want you to be able to use this time right here to tell my listeners where they can find you. I mean, shamelessly plug yourself, girlfriend. You got websites, you got phone numbers, you got social media, hashtag, all of it. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me at bodybytamika.com. That's BODYBYTAMIKA. We'll have it listed also, but bodybytamika.com, on Instagram, Body by Tamika, on YouTube, Body by Tamika, on Facebook, Body by Tamika, hashtag Body by Tamika, hashtag Get Sculpted. I am out there and I will be more in your face because I'm not going to stop until I am on your television. Okay. So you can find me. I am not too big or too busy. I am humble. No matter how much God gives me, I am praying to remain humble. So I will always, to the best of my ability, be reachable and to be there to just answer your questions, or just to, give a little motivation as needed. So reach out to me, follow me. I would love to be in contact with anybody who needs help.
I love it, love it, love it. And I will make sure to post those links on YouTube and Facebook and wherever else y'all find this podcast. So thank you so much, Miss Tamika. This has really been great. It touched my heart. And as usual, I always pray before a podcast, Lord, let this touch somebody, even if it's just one person. I know that someone is going to feel this. So thank you so much. And as for, huh?
Sorry, and for those out there who are thinking about becoming a foster parent, if you have the desire in your heart and you are willing to be selfless and to give your all, I say go for it. If you are not ready to do that, don't even step your foot in any agency.
You heard her. Say
We
it
don't
again,
need,
Mama.
because we don't need you and we don't want you.
Mm,
Okay.
that part. Thank you for
Okay.
keeping it real, though, for real.
That's when the Southside Jamaica Queens might come out. Okay.
Oh.
So I'm trying to keep it cute. Okay. I'm trying to keep it cute. But we don't need you and we don't want you. But if you are willing to give it your all, or if you are willing to love unconditionally, despite how broken or damaged they may show up, because there will be some of it. But if you're willing to just be the best you can be, and to love and nurture and provide safety, then please, yes.
Yeah, I
That's it.
love it. You heard it straight from the desk of Miss Tamika Harden. That part. Well, we are not so different babies. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next week, be kind to yourself and be kind to somebody else too. Love y'all. Peace.
We are not so different.